Yeah, for I guess anyone watching and or listening, kind of had a I don't know emergency press conference podcast about Ken Block as Monday he passed away in a snowmobile accident out in Utah. From the police report, he was alone at the time that it happened, going down a slope, and the sled basically landed on top of him.
Yeah, it rolled over. It wasn't from an avalanche, is what I saw, I guess.
Yeah, so there was pictures of the sled online and it's like in shreds. So yeah, it's a wild way, especially at a young age.
It's
Anyone
50,
that's what?
it's 55.
Yeah, very young age. So anyone that's probably into motorsports, because he kind of did everything. Uh, he was pretty much an icon nationwide, worldwide. So pretty much hit the media by storm, hit everyone by storm.
Yeah, like in our side of the world, the motorsports deal, yeah, it was huge. Last night with the news of the what happened during the football game was
Right,
kind of like everything else, but then all my news feeds of all social media because like it's pretty influential motorsports strongly, so
right,
yeah, all that I really had to kind of look to see what was going on with the football player guy.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Anything can happen, I guess. That's basically what it came down to at that.
yeah, and like I mean, I know a lot of the highlights of everyone's lives kind of come out when stuff like that happens, but just scrolling, I guess my Instagram is kind of really mainly motorsports, I guess, but kind of reading like what all the Travis Pastrana and Tanner Faust and Ryan Tur and like all those big names had to say about him. This how full he lived his life and how much he's got. I think his daughter's 15 or 16 now, but like this is her first full year racing rally, so they're kind of doing it side by side. So they're kind of like you know, all the championships and accolades and whatever. I think Travis Pastrana was the one that said that, but like all the accolades he had personally, he was just so much more happy and like this last year racing with his daughter and his wife and everything than he's ever been.
Right.
Said a lot
Yeah.
about what kind of person he was.
Right. And he didn't just do the motorsport stuff. In 94, he started DC shoes,
Yeah,
as
there's
being
three.
a 90s kid, I wore DC shoes all the time.
Yeah, and like I texted you last night, like it was like well, it kind of feels weird, but I was like, I'm like shook, like, and I like told Kelsey, I was talking to her about it, and she's like, why is it, man? Like we were '90s kids, like that was like just the pop culture, and especially like the motorsports X Games type stuff, like
Right.
DC thing, and then them starting motorsports, and like I mean, I'm not gonna say it's exactly him, but I'm sure 98% of it is the reason rally is even a thing in the United States is because of him still,
Right.
kind of definitely was the most famous person that started it. Now there's so all the different rally stuff across the country, but then the rally cross thing, like bringing it to X Games, like that's him. So
Right.
I remember like, the dirt racing games on Xbox, like Dirt 2 and Colin McRae Racing, like that was
Yeah.
all yeah, like you said, DC shoes. Rob Diedrich, that was DC, and he was on MTV all the time. And Ken Block,
Right.
like so much of what we do now and the way things are with YouTube and social media is like because of him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was telling my wife as well. That's kind of the guy from a motorsport perspective, we looked up to, made some of the most iconic videos, did some of the most, you know, I would say previous to us would have been like Evil Knievel doing things like that, in like the 80s. Then he was kind of our Evil Knievel of the late 90s, early 2000s, because he was doing just radical stunts.
Yeah, like this. I mean, the skateboard thing was kind of the first. video type stuff that was out, skateboard BMX, because it was
Yep.
easy. I think I'm just trying to think back, but like then the motocross thing was kind of like the next, like the freestyle deal. And
Yep.
then he was really the kind of the one that brought it to the car part of it, I think. As
Right.
far as viral video, not documentary, but like that kind of stuff was definitely him.
Right. Right. And the little bit of reading I did do, he was the first ever American to race in the World Rally Cross Championship. So, I mean, that alone kind of explains who he was as a racer as well. He was very competitive. He was good at what he did.
Yeah, and like, so his background was architecture, but then he was always like designs and drawing and stuff. So that's how the DC thing started.
Sure.
So DC shoes, and then 2004 they sold it, and
Yep.
then started the Hoonigan brand. So
Yeah.
like he was always super big on designs, and like, so that's just kind of a little bit of my background with him. He's big into the designs and like the livery thing of it. But he had
Right.
some that like the screen printing deal back in the day when the screen printing thing started, and this like, yeah, I mean the car, like, yeah, the builds of the cars that he drove in the videos and everything were amazing in themselves, but like it was always the designs and the liveries. Like I'd say that's why like that stuff is a thing now. It's because of him for the most part.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even if he, posted pictures of personal items, like his snowmobile or motorcycles or cars, everything was like decaled out, custom designed to the max.
Yeah, as far as like a marketing, whether it's clothing or motorsports, those things, like, I mean, he is the guy. Like he did it right. Like
Yep.
just he's the best at it there
Right.
was.
Right. 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 Yeah, he was. And well then, as we know, kind of the most viewed videos he had were the Gymkhana videos he started. That was basically where he did all of his wild stunts, Pikes Peak, all over the place.
Yeah, he did at Pikes Peak. It was Climb Kana. That's where he did the Mustang, so the Unicorn
Yep.
drive 65 Mustang, 66 whatever coupe,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
one in China with the F100, 69 F1 or 67 F100. That was pretty. Yeah, the Gymkhana videos are so nuts, and like the amount of money, and now Travis Pastrana is doing them with Subaru now under the
Right.
Hooning. So it's just kind of cool, and like I know we've talked about the whole marketing thing and the backgrounds and sponsorships and stuff, but like from Ken Block to go to from Subaru to like Ford getting on board with them and like bringing back their rally heritage with like the escorts and the Kazis and different things, and like how much he cared about the past of rally was really cool. Like, and I know I'm not a huge rally fan, but because of
Right.
him, I pay attention. But like just for someone like that that's in a sport to care about the history of it and the legacy that it had is really cool. Like to make Ford to be competitive in it again, and like the special one-off stuff that Ford did for
Right.
him. Like now the special projects they do with different people, like Von Gittin and everything. Like Ken Block was the pioneer of all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. And yeah, it's still crazy to even think. That's kind of why a guy does a lot of the dumb stuff we do.
mean, as far as like the car scene for our generation, obviously, like a lot of people say Fast and Furious put cars in the mainstream, but as far as like the practical racing part of it and exhibition part, it was
Right.
Ken in DC when he still had that for a few years, and then when he started full time rally with his
Yep.
vegan stuff, and then it was that. I don't know, just seeing everybody post. I mean, every car YouTuber posted something. There's tons of NASCAR guys posted. Ryan Anderson, the Dennis Anderson's boy, that drives that son
Yeah,
of
I seen that.
he's part of the Hoonigan team brand sponsored athlete. But yeah, just like what everybody had to say about him was just kind of nuts to read through it.
Right. Yeah. Even Ken Roxon, a motocross guy, he had stuff out there. Obviously Travis, I'm assuming him and Travis were super close. It wasn't that long ago, a month or 2 months ago. Uh they just posted that video of Travis ramping the bridge, and Ken Block was obviously right there by his side when they did it. So,
Yeah,
pretty close relationship there as well.
yeah, those guys have been really close for a long time with the DC and rally stuff. And
Right.
both drove for Subaru for when Travis started, and Travis stayed with Subaru, and then Ken Block went to Ford.
Right.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah,
both guys that push the limits on everything.
and everybody that I kind of on a motorsports aspect look up to and watch and pay attention to what they do all posted something about him and how much he meant to them and their interactions with them.
Right. Right. And he got a lot of younger generations or younger people started in it, alone. So he's touched. You can just see it on the media front. He's touched a lot of different people.
Yeah, and like I know Hoonigan was his brand, and so they have their YouTube channel, but that's kind of separate from what he does for the most part. But like
Right.
just they've done, just that brand has done as far as bringing light to all these like crazy builds, like their build bio with, I mean, pretty much every cool car that's been built for SEMA or racing or anything has been on that show with, I mean, in all aspects like drag cars and monster trucks and rally cars and off-road trucks and street cars. And I mean, you name it, it's been on one of their shows, that build bio or even that Hoonigan versus the world. And it's brought a lot of spotlight to a lot of different avenues of racing.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the most unfortunate part is leaving behind the family, especially had a daughter upcoming in the racing scene, and it's just tough when you got a family without, not by choice, but without a father now, and that's
Right.
just that much harder on them for sure, especially when he was so influential to so many people. So they're going to see it all over the media for weeks now. Got to keep getting reminded about it.
Yeah, I think he had a son and a daughter. I know he had a daughter for sure, but I know there was a younger kid as well.
Yeah. And I guess, and well, they probably won't release a lot of information, but they never did really say if like fellow riders brought him somewhere or if they had like airlift come in, or I never did hear that.
I saw something. I mean, I didn't really look too hard, but that he was kind of off by himself when it happened. But
Sure.
they're up there with a group because I don't think you really go up there by yourself, but they're up
Right.
kind of like by himself, sort of.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
it's crazy. Um, yeah, and he's been all over. I mean, he's been overseas, making videos. He's been, shut down the town of San Francisco. I mean, that takes the media crew, the everything it takes alone. Just recently, within this year, they had that video of him doing he claimed one of the most technical burnouts he's ever done inside that shop. He went inside the shop and kind of did a burnout underneath that lift. There's a car on the lift. There's people standing in there. He did like three or four donuts and then took off out of there, and it's something, it was so technical and so tight. He just had like
Yeah.
inches of room to work with and to make it and execute, it's just wild.
Yeah, that's like Travis Pastrana did an interview about the last Gymkhana and the differences between him and Ken, and then Brian Scott was the main
Sure.
again or the Gymkhana stuff. So they were interviewing and talking about it, and like Scotto gets so mad at Travis because he's like, we can't just go 200 miles an hour and film it all the time. Like we need to do something to slow it down, just like transitions and stuff. And that's what Ken was good at. And Travis was like, no, I want to go 180. Like, I just go as fast as I can and drift. And like, so that's why there's not, I mean, there's plenty of technical stuff in Travis's ones, but yeah, like you said, like drifting around in circles and donuts and moving. And like, me, you watch like any exhibition type video on YouTube with drifting and racing and whatever. Like it all has like moving donuts and burnouts and like that's all from stems from him.
Right. And he never stayed stagnant in the media source. I mean, he did that, and then middle of this summer, he did Electric Anna in Vegas, which was obviously cool like all the other ones, but he always stayed on top of bringing out new videos and keeping himself and the sport in the limelight, basically.
Yeah, he's such a smart business person. Like, yeah, like when Ford revived the Mustang, that's when he did the Unicorn. And then like when that something with the F series, like the Eco, I can't remember the Eco Boost. That's when he built the F100, and then
Right.
he went back to Subaru as to go back to his history kind of deal. But then he went back, or then he signed with Audi. So that's what Electricana was an Audi because they're more forward in electric vehicles. But like you said, he's just always like right there and also relevant and everything.
Yep. Yep. One step ahead of the game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just like it's such a hit like for our generation, like the 90s, early 2000s, like that was the thing. Like when PacSun used to sell DC stuff and always had the Ken Block shirts. And of course, now it's
Yep.
a really different company now. And
I had a lot of friends that wore the Ken Block stuff, and almost everyone in my my age range wore DC shoes.
right.
Like you always did. Didn't matter if you were really even a skateboarder or not. You wore DC shoes.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like the designs and like their team shirts, that's like why that's a thing. Like having all the logos on t-shirts that you could just go buy now. And just, yeah, so much like his designs and the liveries. And I know it wasn't 100% him doing the designs, but he's the
Right.
one who signs off on them or whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
For
I don't
sure.
know. Big hit to the whole community. I don't care what, I mean, guys, drag racers had posts on them and just you name it.
Everybody. Everybody.
Valley had a long post, and that's like super opposite. Like I get some of the monster guys like saying stuff, just how that all works, but then
Right.
like kind of away. But X Games and extreme sports, it's all I don't know, pretty close community. It seems like.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, once you get to that level, you basically know every one of your competition.
Right. Yeah, and he was so influential on so many different aspects of motorsports and what goes on. Like
Yeah.
even like, I don't know if you look, and of course this is kind of what I do, so I pay way more attention to it. But just the way like NASCAR paint schemes are designed now, and like new monster truck, like just there's a
Yep.
little bit of the Hoonigan or Ken Block style, or just that the way it is, I guess, in
Right.
everybody.
Little flavor of his involved.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's just sad. It's really too bad. I mean, anytime something happens in the motorsport world like that, it's too bad that it had to happen. But then again, when you think about it, that's what he did, go snowmobile and snowboard and mountain bike and just do that stuff. But just
Right.
gonna happen.
He lived and breathed it, and you know, kind of went out doing what he does. Not
Right.
that that's how he wanted to, but
Right.
you know, the time he was around, he made a huge impact.
Yeah, there's just so many people that are, descendants of his ideas and companies and
Right.
whatever. It's definitely left a legacy in more ways than one.
Right. Right.
I don't know if you could make a tree of put him on the top and the DC stuff and like the Ford racing performance stuff and just kind of like branch it out, like kind of cool to see.
Right. Yeah, I think it would spread all over for sure.